July 20th, 1944. A single briefcase, a hidden bomb, and one chance to change the course of history forever. The blast at the Wolf's Lair was meant to end the tyranny. For a moment, the world held its breath. But luck was on the side of the devil. Hitler narrowly survives, protected by the very table intended to kill him. The revenge was merciless. Thousands were hunted, arrested, and executed in the bloody purge that followed. Their plot failed, but their sacrifice sent a message to the world. Not everyone in Germany was evil. July 20th, 1944. A single briefcase, inches from the Führer, carries the weight of a nation's soul and the hope of a world at war. A thunderous roar shatters the silence. The plot to end the madness is triggered, sending shockwaves through the heart of the Third Reich. But fate is cruel. A heavy table leg absorbs the blast's fury. Hitler narrowly survives, and the light of the German resistance begins to flicker. The retribution is swift and merciless. Thousands are hunted, arrested, and executed. Their bravery met with the cold steel of the firing squad. Their mission failed, but their sacrifice remains. They proved to history that even in the deepest darkness, not everyone in Germany was evil. The bomb failed. Hitler survived, and his vengeance would be absolute and terrifying. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg was captured that same night, standing tall in the face of certain death. He was not alone. Thousands were arrested, tortured, and executed as the Reich purged its own ranks. With his final breath, he shouted, "Long live sacred Germany," a plea for a nation lost to madness. Their sacrifice reminds us that even in the heart of darkness, the light of conscience never truly dies. Not everyone was evil. The smoke cleared, but history had already shifted. Stauffenberg walked away, convinced the tyrant was gone. But Hitler lived. A heavy oak table had shielded him from the blast, sealing the fate of the resistance. The retaliation was swift and merciless. Thousands were hunted down as the Gestapo tightened its grip. In the courtyard of the Bendler block, Stauffenberg stood tall, a final cry for a sacred Germany on his lips. They died as traitors then, but today they stand as proof. Even in the heart of darkness, there were those who chose the light. The plot failed. The Wolf's Lair was not his tomb, but the beginning of a cold, relentless bloodbath. Hitler narrowly survived, and his fury was absolute. He demanded every conspirator and their entire families be hunted like animals. The trials were a mockery of justice. Over 7,000 people were arrested, and 5,000 would meet a horrific end. They were hung by piano wire, their final moments filmed for the Führer's amusement. A brutal sacrifice for a failed liberation. But their blood was not shed in vain. They proved to the world that even in the heart of darkness, not everyone in Germany was evil. The failure of the plot ignited a wave of vengeance that swept through the Reich with merciless fury. Show trials were orchestrated to strip every ounce of dignity from the conspirators before the people's court. Thousands paid the ultimate price, facing the gallows or the firing squad in the cold shadows of the night. Yet, their sacrifice proved to the world that not everyone in Germany was blinded by evil. They were the spark of conscience in a time of total darkness, a reminder that honor survives the tyrant. One briefcase, one bomb, one single chance to stop the madness and change history forever. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg stepped into the sunlight, leaving the silent killer ticking beneath the Führer's feet. The blast shattered the silence of the forest, but fate had a cruel twist hidden in the wreckage. Hitler survived. The vengeance that followed was swift, brutal, and fueled by absolute paranoia. Thousands were executed, but their sacrifice proved to the world not everyone in Germany was evil. The silence in Berlin was shattered by a single terrifying realization. The plan had failed. The heavy oak table had acted as a shield. The dictator had narrowly survived the blast. The retribution was immediate. Thousands were hunted down, arrested, and sentenced to death. Nearly 5,000 people paid the ultimate price for their defiance against the regime. Their sacrifice sent a message to history. Even in the heart of darkness, not everyone in Germany was evil. Hitler's vengeance was swift and merciless, a wave of fury crashing down on the resistance. Over 5,000 people were rounded up, many with no connection to the plot at all. Among them stood Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, the man who dared to strike the heart of evil. His failure was a tragedy, but his courage proved that even in the darkest regime, not everyone was a monster. They died to show the world that there was another Germany, one that sought peace, not power. The blast failed to kill the tyrant, but it ignited a fire that Hitler's shadow could never fully extinguish. In a frantic wave of vengeance, the Gestapo hunted every soul linked to the plot, filling the streets with the sound of boots and fear. Thousands were executed, yet in their final moments, they found a dignity that the Third Reich had long ago lost. They were not traitors to their country, but warriors for its soul, proving that even in the heart of darkness, light persists. History remembers them now as the good Germans, the men who risked everything to show the world that not everyone was evil. July 20th, 1944. A single briefcase was meant to end the tyrant and change the course of history forever, but fate was cruel. Hitler narrowly survived, protected by the very table intended to hide the bomb. The retaliation was swift and merciless. The Gestapo began a purge that would stain the nation in blood. Nearly 5,000 were executed. Many were hung from meat hooks, their slow deaths filmed for Hitler's viewing. They failed to kill the monster, but they proved a vital truth. Not everyone in Germany was evil. They stood against the ultimate evil, knowing the price was death, proving that conscience can survive even in the heart of darkness. The failure of the briefcase bomb at the Wolf's Lair ignited a ruthless purge, leading to the execution of thousands of brave souls. Among them was Stauffenberg, who chose honor over life, shouting his final defiance into the cold night air. Their sacrifice served as a beacon, proving to the world that not every German heart beat for the Führer. History remembers them not as traitors, but as the true soul of a nation that dared to say no when the world stayed silent. One briefcase, one bomb, one final chance to cut the head off the serpent and end the madness. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg carried the weight of a nation's conscience into the heart of the Wolf's Lair. The blast was thunderous, but fate was cruel. A heavy table shielded the dictator. Hitler narrowly survived. The purge was absolute. In the shadow of the failed coup, thousands were rounded up and executed in cold blood. They died as traitors to a tyrant, but as heroes to humanity. Their sacrifice proves one truth. Not everyone in Germany was evil. July 20th, 1944. A single briefcase holds the fate of millions, placed by a man willing to sacrifice everything to stop a monster. The blast tore through the Wolf's Lair, but fate had a cruel twist. The heavy table leg shielded the target from the full force. Stauffenberg fled, believing the deed was done, but Hitler crawled from the ruins, battered but alive. The retribution was swift and merciless. Thousands were hunted, tortured, and executed as the regime purged its own ranks. Their sacrifice reminds us, even in the heart of darkness, there were those who dared to choose the light. Not everyone in Germany was evil. The Wolf's Lair erupts in a blinding flash. The briefcase bomb detonates, changing the course of history in a single heartbeat. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg watches the smoke rise. For one brief moment, he believes the tyrant is finally dead. But destiny is cruel. A heavy oak table leg shielded the Führer. Hitler survives, and his vengeance will be absolute. The purge was merciless. Thousands were hunted down, arrested, and executed in the bloody aftermath of the failed plot. They failed to kill the man, but they proved to the world, even in the heart of darkness, not everyone in Germany was evil. July 20th, 1944. A briefcase bomb, a split second from changing history, and a Germany that dared to resist its own monster. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg was the heart of the conspiracy. He didn't just see the evil, he planned to kill it. The bomb exploded, but a heavy oak table leg saved Hitler's life. The plot failed, but the message was sent. The revenge was swift and merciless. Thousands were hunted, arrested, and executed by the regime in a desperate act of terror. Their sacrifice proved to the world, even in the darkest heart of tyranny, not every German soul was evil. One briefcase, one bomb, one chance to change the course of history forever. Inside the heart of the Nazi machine, Operation Valkyrie was set in motion by men who risked everything. The blast was deafening. It was meant to end the tyrant, but fate had a cruel twist. Hitler survived. The purge that followed was merciless, claiming thousands of lives in a wave of executions. Though they failed, their sacrifice whispered a truth to the world. Not everyone in Germany was evil. The wolf's lair became a furnace of failed hope, leaving only the charred remains of a desperate gamble. Against all odds, the dictator survived, shielded by the very table meant to seal his fate. Vengeance was swift and absolute. Thousands were hunted down in the cold shadows of the night. Colonel Stauffenberg stood tall, facing the firing squad with the calm of a man who knew his soul was free. Their sacrifice whispered a truth to history, that even in the heart of darkness, not everyone in Germany was evil. The explosion rocked the wolf's lair, but fate had a cruel twist. Hitler survived, and the tide of vengeance was about to turn. In the bloody purge that followed, over 5,000 people were hunted down, tortured, and executed in the name of loyalty. Their sacrifice proved to history that even in the heart of darkness, there were those brave enough to stand for what was right. Not everyone in Germany was evil.